Hello, welcome to the Daily News Bulletin from Hanoi. Let's check out the highlights.
Vietnamese Party General Secretary begins official visit to Belarus. National Assembly passes draft revised law on investment and the revised enterprise law. BBC reporter writes book on the East Sea.
Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng left Russia to begin his official visit to Belarus on November 26. Before his departure, the Vietnamese leader and Russian President Putin held talks in the Russian city of Sochi.
During the talks on November 25th, both leaders emphasized the priority to develop cooperation in energy with focus on oil and gas and nuclear power. They decided to increase collaboration in oil and gas exploration and production in Vietnam's continental shelf in line with international law, while speeding up negotiations for a deal of expanding the Dung Quất oil refinery in Vietnam. The two leaders affirmed the policy to further strengthen the relations between the two ruling parties. Both host and guest also agreed to bring two-way trade to $7 billion by 2015 and $10 billion by 2020. Regarding territorial disputes in the Asia-Pacific region, including the East Sea issue, the two sides emphasized the settlement by peaceful measures in line with international law. At the end of the talks, host and guest witnessed the signing of 9 cooperation documents between the two sides, including the government agreement on the strategic partnership in education and science technology. On November 26, Party General Secretary Trọng was welcomed by Prime Minister Mikhail Miashnikovich and other governmental officials of Belarus at the Minsk National Airport. Vietnam and Belarus enjoy a sound and time-honored friendship and cooperation, with political ties growing continuously. Two-way trade reached $152 million in 2013, with Vietnamese imports totaling $138.3 million. To balance their import-export turnover, the two countries' leaders agreed to intensify cooperation in areas of strength and with potential. The two countries see prospects for cooperation on labor export. Vietnamese businesses recently signed contracts with a construction company in Belarus to send Vietnamese laborers to work on an entertainment sports complex project in Minsk. As many as 600 Vietnamese nationals live in Belarus.
On November 26, deputies at the ongoing 8th session of the 13th National Assembly passed the draft revised law on investment and the revised enterprise law.
The draft revised law on investment, which includes 7 chapters and 76 articles, was adopted with 84.91% of votes in favor. Before the approval, deputies heard a report by the National Assembly Standing Committee on its acquisition, amendment and accountability related to different opinions on the prohibition of human and human body parts trafficking and radioactive substance trade. Meanwhile, the revised enterprise law was passed with 85.51% of votes in favor. It comprises 10 chapters and 213 articles. To this effect, the report focused on interpreting controversial issues related to social enterprise, which is stated in Article 10 of the revised enterprise law. During the session, lawmakers also debated on the draft revised law on state audit.
The 15th ASEAN Chief of Army multilateral meeting opened in Hanoi on November 26. It aims to foster exchange and integration, contributing to enhancing solidarity, mutual understanding and trust among ASEAN militaries.
This is the first time the Vietnam People's Army has hosted the event themed Enhancing Coordinating Capacity for ASEAN Armies to Respond to Non-Traditional Challenges. Chief of the General Staff of the Vietnam People's Army, Senior Lieutenant General Robati, said the Vietnam People's Army will continue expanding cooperation with other ASEAN armies. He highlighted that the meeting has become a crucial cooperation mechanism that works to deal with common security threats facing the region. At the 5-day event, participants will discuss measures to promote cooperation among the army members to deal with security challenges with a view of contributing to maintaining the region's peace and spurring its development. The same day, regional military officers also joined the 4th ASEAN Sergeant Major annual meeting.
Vietnam and its international donors and development partners table measures to prevent bribery and confiscate bribes at an anti-corruption dialogue in Hanoi on November 26.
Addressing the event, Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc, who is deputy head of the Central Steering Committee on Corruption Prevention and Fight, noted that taking back bribes is an important task in the fight against corruption, but the work has yet to meet the demand. UK Ambassador Giles Lever spoke highly of efforts by Vietnamese agencies in implementing the anti-corruption commitment. To achieve more success in this fight, he suggested the Vietnamese government continue its effort to further coordinate closely with domestic authorized offices and international organizations. Representatives of international donors and development partners affirmed their continuous assistance for the Vietnamese government in this fight. Many suggested the government continue executing laws and legal documents relating to corruption prevention and fighting in an effective manner. The government's report on anti-corruption work in 2014 shows that so far this year, inspections have brought in light 54 corruption cases with 87 suspects involved and total money of 68.5 billion Vietnam dongs.
A book on the South China Sea, known as The Sea in Vietnam, written by BBC reporter Bill Hayton, was introduced at a workshop in Belgium on November 25th.
The book The South China Sea, The Struggle for Power in Asia was published by Yale University Press in October 2014. It explains the situation in the sea and the tension arising from disputes between China and a number of countries, including Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Its author, Bill Hayton, worked as a BBC reporter in Vietnam in 2006 and 2007. He said the disputes are due to the issue's global importance, as 40% of the international trade is shipped via these waters.
China and Vietnam could take some steps which would make things easier. There is a piece of sea between Hainan Island and the Vietnamese coast before you get to the Paracels, where the two sides could agree a boundary. And if they can show a compromise here, then they could reach. There could be a sign that they could reach a bigger solution later on.
Participants at the event said improperly handled disputes and tensions in this region may lead to conflicts, impacting regional navigation freedom, cargo transport, and investment environment, as well as the entire global economy.
The United Nations International Fund for Agricultural Development will provide Vietnam with a support package of $22 million to relieve poverty. The agreement was signed in Italy on November 25th.
Under the pact, the preferential funding will go to a humanitarian aid program in the northern mountainous province of Hà Giang. The program aims to help local farmers improve farming skills and apply climate change adaptive production, thus boosting their sustainable livelihood. As many as 30,000 poor households in 5 local districts, including Bắc Quang, Hoàng Su Phi, Quang Bình, Vị Xuyên, and Xin Men, are expected to benefit from the project. Speaking at the signing ceremony, the fund's president Canayo Nguyen said Vietnam is an outstanding instance of great efforts to fight impoverishment. He said the fund and he himself will closely support the country in launching more cooperative projects in the coming time. The International Fund for Agricultural Development has so far provided a total of over $283 million to 10 major poverty alleviation projects in Vietnam, which benefit more than 539,000 households.
Food producers and suppliers from Taiwan introduced their best farm produce, processed food and beverages to the Vietnamese market at a meeting in Ho Chi Minh City on November 25th.
The Taiwanese enterprises brought to the meeting typical products that meet quality and food safety criteria, including fruits and vegetables, confectionery, canned food, beverages and spices.
Machinery and food are two of Taiwan's strengths. We want to take these advantages to produce safe and affordable goods that can compete in the Vietnamese market.
Currently, Taiwan ships to Vietnam processed grain, fruits and beverages, seafood, tobacco and raw meat worth approximately $390 million.
Vietnam's shrimp export to the Republic of Korea increased 50.2% against the same period last year, making it the top shrimp exporter to the East Asian market.
Statistics from the Vietnam Association of Seafood Exporters and Producers reveals that the Republic of Korea has so far this year imported over 19,600 tons of shrimps from Vietnam, worth $205.3 million. This shows a surge of 15.2% in volume and 87.2% in value. Vietnam became the leading shrimp exporter in the Korean market by holding 33 to 44% of the market share. So far, the Republic of Korea was the fifth largest shrimp exporter of Vietnam, after the US, Japan, the EU, and China, and accounted for 7.9% of the total value.
The Vietnam Food Association has reported the country earned $2.56 billion from exporting 5.55 million tons of rice in the first 11 months of this year.
In the first 20 days of November, Vietnam shipped abroad 190,000 tons of rice at the average export price of $474.5 per ton. This year, Vietnam expects to export 6.5 to 7 million tons of rice, worth about $3 billion. Traditional export markets of Vietnamese rice include Singapore, mainland China, Hong Kong, and Côte d'Ivoire, as well as Algeria and Indonesia. The Vietnam Food Association has also predicted that 2015 will be a tough year for Vietnam's rice exporters because their Thai rivals have concentrated on recovering traditional rice markets in Africa and expanding its market, such as the Philippines, Indonesia, and China.
Vietnamese fans of Japan had a chance to learn about the culture of the land of the rising sun right in Hanoi during a festival held recently at the Vietnamese Women's Museum.
The Fukushima Festival was co-organized by the museum and the Fukushima Vietnam Friendship Association. It aimed to enhance the friendship between Vietnam and Japan. Visitors to the event participated in an array of cultural activities, including a traditional tea ceremony, kimono fashion shows, doll painting, Japanese comedy, ikebana, or flower arranging demonstration. The festival also included an exhibit depicting Fukushima residents whose resilience and strength enabled them to recover from a tsunami and nuclear plant disaster in March 2011. These dual disasters almost destroyed this peaceful and beautiful city. Since then, people in Fukushima have been living and working together to bring back the inherent beauty of this area. This is the second time the festival has been organized here. Last year, the festival honored the contribution of Vietnam to the city's recovery after the disaster.
The story about a Japanese festival concludes our bulletin. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.